what actions are you taking or not taking that are fueling your personal pride and personal ego, right?
Yeah.
If I believe I'm supposed to do something and I do it, ooh, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
If I don't, I don't.
So, man, I want to come straight out of the gate. Like, what is the number one thing that you're finding that people are really struggling with and kind of necessitated the need to write the book?
Identity, man. Everybody is a little bit lost on who they are and they don't realize it. And it's not that, myself included, I'm sure there's areas I'm like, I didn't realize that that's who I really am. But here's the hard part. I think societally, we are in this really interesting space where there's a complete upheaval of normalcy. Mm-hmm. And when you have an upheaval of normalcy, you start trying to figure out, well, who am I within this new, thing? And that's where the discontent comes from. It's the incongruency, the misalignment with what I thought was the world and what the actual world is. And who am I? Where do I fit in this? It's actually called identity versus role confusion. So I think people just don't know their role in new society.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you talk about in the book that kind of, I won't say stunned me, but it caused me to stop and kind of reflect a little bit, was I actually had to ask myself, how am I currently operating? Mm-hmm. And better yet, how have I been able to transition from operating, back when I was going through the homelessness stuff to where I'm at now? Yeah. And then how can I elevate where I'm operating now to where I need to be?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah. So so as I'm kind of like thinking through these things, I'm like, dude, the audience has got to like have a better understanding of what it means to operate, like a kind of a polar shift. Talk a little bit about how we operate and how we operate is actually holding us back or propelling us forward.
Yeah, the hard thing is those who have success understanding that the operation we have is below the level of where our next level dream is. Because whenever you've gone from a dark place to a high place, you're feeling good, you've succeeded, right? We're like, we're good. We don't want to admit that there's something we got to work on. It's very interesting. We're like, I'm good. Yeah. Like when I played professional football, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to work, but like I still work out. You know what I mean? I still rather play, but it's just a weird level. So the operating is an aspect of realizing that every day you show up as a person and it's your identity. And the way I explain it is it's who you are when you aren't thinking about who you are. Yeah. It's just how you're doing things, it's just the natural flow of us human beings. But that actual level has created the life you have. And if you want a higher level of life, it could be more money, could be more freedom, it could be more free time, whatever it is, that needs you have to get to a higher level. Because if the identity doesn't match the dream doesn't get realized. Yeah. So you have to get those two put together. And then when you say, how do we choose it? Like look at operation, it's a matter of stopping and saying, well, how am I operating right now? And if you really take the ego back and look at that, you might go, oh, you know what? I could do better there. And there's a simple question I can lead in with. And I don't even know if it's in the book. Maybe it is. And the question I tell people is, tell them what you want. I want this dream. Great. Okay. Does the person who has that dream right now, do they make the same excuse or stop at this level? Yeah. And that's it. The reality is no. So then keep going.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about it, one of the things that I've seen, at least in my life, is this essence of kind of letting the expectation of yesterday trying to kind of drive today, so all the various things that, that maybe it's lack of finance and you carry that into tomorrow and basically like, well, I'm not going to get anywhere anyway. So I may as well just like go ahead and buy the big screen, even though I know I should be paying off my debt. Right. Yeah, right. All this kind of silliness. And, but then you also talked about something that I think is really, really powerful that I think is basically unknown to most people. Which is this essence of understanding that your identity is being chipped away on a regular basis by life experiences. And if you're not paying attention to that, then everything basically, you don't actually get to the elevated life. Talk a little bit about the kind of the frameworks around, kind of understanding a little bit about how life has been stolen from you. And then more importantly, how to steal it back.
Yeah. And I don't know if stolen's the word. I'll take that though, because as I sit with that, I let it simmer on my tongue, of my brain. I don't know if life's stolen. I think what ends up happening is we don't take it when it's there for us, right? So if you don't take it, someone else is going to take it. And when I look at the way that we operate in life, where we have this interesting thing where I believe life has an amazing plan set out for us. I think there's some really cool things set out. However, we mess the plan up. Yeah, we mess it up with fear and frustration and anger and poor actions, our free will, or not leveling up our identity to handle the opportunity when it arises. And we see the opportunity as opposition. Yeah, there's a lot of different things we fight. Now, the way that we can take it back is we have to honestly just look at who we are and understand who we are at a deeper level. And that's where we actually go into the frame of identity, right?
Yeah.
And there's we'll call it the 6 levels, which really is just 6 core pieces of what I call your ideal identity or your zone identity.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in the zone, it's a
Yeah.
version of your identity. It's hard to get there and stay there, right? So you get there at a certain level, but you can get close to it for a while. You
Yeah.
can hang in that 95% of the zone for a while, and that's where people that are having massive success happen to live, like yourself and myself. We're in those spaces, but we're like, for the most part, we do things that keep us there. So how do we do it? The 6 core areas are beliefs, thoughts, actions. These are the big like circles of the Venn diagram. Then you have an overlap between beliefs and thoughts, which is your mindset. You have an overlap between thoughts and actions, which is your habits. An overlap between beliefs and actions, which are your personal pride or ego areas. So when we look at life, we have to actually ask this question. The person who's living that version, right? That identity that has the money, has the cars, has the time, has the body, has the joy, has the peace. What are their actual beliefs about themselves in the world? And do I harbor those?
Yeah.
Because most of us, if I think about it, well, think about a guy like The Rock, right? What does this dude have to believe for him to get up and go, I'm going to be one of the greatest movie stars in the world. I'm going to create a tequila company. I'm going to
don't forget the energy drinks.
Yeah, and I got them all right here in my fridge. I got like 3 more cases coming today. But like that, and then say I'm gonna be jacked out of my mind. Like, what does this dude got to believe about the day and what's possible that everybody else goes, that can't be done?
Yeah.
Right. That's the belief you have to look at, is what's the one that is out of character for me? It is foreign to my brain. What's the beliefs? Then what do they think? What are the out of character, out of my framing thoughts that are going through that person's head, right? Same thing with the actions. What actions are they taking that would make my butt pucker, right? Then from there, what's their mindset in action? Because I think the mindset is your mind in action, mind in motion, right? It's like how my mindset is operating is an emotion type. I don't sit here and go, yeah, I'm good. No, it's like in the middle of something's going on. Where's my mindset? Can I keep on going? And then habits, right? Because we all know that habits create you. What you do over time becomes you. Seriously, it's just a matter of what it is. And then whenever you get to the beliefs and actions things, it's what actions are you taking or not taking that are fueling your personal pride and personal ego, right?
Yeah.
If I believe I'm supposed to do something and I do it, ooh, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
If I don't, I don't.
Yeah.
And so when you say, how do we grab control? It's taking a look at those areas and saying, where do I need to upgrade?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to upgrade my beliefs, my thoughts, or what do I have to do? Because if you don't focus on that, you'll get really busy being busy and get burned out by putting a bunch of energy in and not getting the return that you want because you never actually worked on the things you needed to.
Yeah, no, that's so good because, I can tell you from my experience, so I've shared with my audience a few times. I don't know if I've shared it with you yet. But the lack of focus on shaping my identity had me living out the identity that life and others placed in me or on me. One of these big core things I believe is this importance of life lies. So one of the things my father told me one time, and he did, it's funny how people put their limiting belief on you, not realizing that they're limiting you, not helping you. So my father came to me out of love, and he didn't, he spent a lot of time in my life early on. And I remember his first business failed. And as we were kind of walking through that journey a little bit, I was really getting to know him a couple years in, maybe 3 years in, kind of spending time around him. And he made this comment. He said, Scoggins don't get ahead, they get by. Right. A day later, I later went and did the whole ancestry.com thing, went down that rabbit trail, which that took a minute. Learned that in 450 years, not a single Scoggins had ever become affluent, influential, or somehow impactful to the world.
Interesting.
They were lost in poverty. They were actually came to the United States as part of a penal colony because they shot a deer on a lord's land in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Became sharecroppers, then went into construction industry. And then I find myself sitting down with my dad, and something in my spirit was like, either I accept this as my truth or I don't.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't been for my first mentor, I absolutely would have continued that generational curse, bondage, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And the crazy part was, as Steve Meyer, my first mentor that took me down that pathway, I found myself literally not focusing on my identity, not focusing on where I needed to go, not focusing on what I needed to be doing, what rituals I need to have in place, what actions I need to be taking. And as a result, because I wasn't starting with the root of identity, I found myself overlooking an 8-lane highway ready to take my life. Because everything in me had been pulled from and pulled from and pulled from.
Yeah.
And I feel like that if people aren't paying attention to their identity, which is another reason why I had to have you back on the show to talk about the importance of it, because I think it's one of the most underrated tools that you have in a healthy lifestyle, right? So if you don't mind, you mentioned this one concept too that I thought was really powerful. And that is, we don't see ourselves as other people see us. And you have this amazing story with a good friend of ours, with yours in the book. I'm not going to spoil it everybody's got to go. First of all, let me say this. The Venn diagram he just mentioned that he just kind of briefly went over, that Venn diagram is in the book in detail. So you can actually flow along. And then he also walks you through that in detail. So you absolutely have to pick up the book. But more importantly, that story really, really took me by surprise and had me thinking about people like Steve Myrick in my own life. So talk a little bit about how we see ourselves versus how people see us.
Yeah, it's always different. It's funny you say that one statement. Our family has a statement, which is trucks don't show up, we show out. That's my time. Yeah, we go.
But that means you get to build. That's one going the other direction.
Other direction. Yeah, that's we don't do the negative one. I got the positive one, man. It's No, it was a story. Like I post like, a suicidal moment, man. And I was like, I didn't want to be here because life sucked after the game of football. I was like, well, this is life after football. I'm cool. Like I don't want any of this. And so what ended up happening was I'd gone back to work, and one of the guys that I'd played high school football with was actually an employee at my gym working for me. He had pulled to the back office, and he goes, first off, never do anything stupid like you just did again. Like, I don't know what you're thinking, right? And he goes, secondly, whenever I heard what had happened, he said, I threw up in a toilet because I thought I'd lost a hero. I'm like, what do you mean you lost a hero? He goes, you may not know it. And obviously you don't talk to anybody about it. He says, but in this community, he says, a lot of people look up to you for what you've accomplished. You are an individual that your life's inspiring, man, to a lot of people. And it was that first, it was the first time I'd ever had someone say something in a way that made me think like, wow, maybe the things I've experienced or gone and done were of value to the world outside of me. Because before that, I was always Anthony, focused on me and my family and that, but I never really focused on like what I could do with it, we'll call it. And that seed was one that has blossomed now. But it was the first time I heard somebody see me differently than how I saw me in like a really, really different light.
Well, and I think we all need those people. And, I think, there's as a person of faith, I think we share the same faith, but as a person of faith, I always wonder, in fact, my grandfather told me one time, he said, who do you think has a larger kingdom impact, Billy Graham or the person that led Billy Graham to faith? And I was like, that's pretty deep, Granddad.
I'm not necessarily. You see my face. I went,
Yeah. What caused me to pause, because he's like, we underestimate as people the impact that we make on a day in, day out basis. I mean, you've been consistent with your Instagram live streams on a daily basis. And if you're not already following Anthony, you should be. But like clockwork, I know I'm going to get something inspirational, something educational, something that's going to empower my mind, motivate my heart on a day in and day out basis. And the reality is we will never know all the ears and the eyes that the content actually hits, which is why I thought it was important to share that story, because at the end of the day, I think we're all chasing that area of significance and meaning and identity shift. I mean, it's a roadmap for that, which I love about it. So the other thing that I thought was really instrumental was this: you play a really high importance on personal accountability. How did you discover the necessity for that? And how did you begin to operate in that?
Yeah. I think we all fail to comprehend that we are the common denominator in all of our problems, whether it's, whether I'm allowing it, right? Because it's in my life and I haven't made the change to end it, or because I caused it and I don't want to own up that I caused it. So it honestly just permeates in all aspects of our life, and it pervades. And so the idea is, like, if we don't step back and realize that we are in the massive control seat and we're the ones that will end up just not even controlling the plane, it'll crash.
Yeah.
And there's a great book by Mark, I think it's Mark Victor Manson is his name. And in the book, he talks about how life is not our fault, but what happens is our responsibility.
Mhm.
Or like it wasn't my fault my mom gave me away, but it was my responsibility to fix it because she's not going to come back and fix my life. No one's going to
Yeah.
do that. And
Yeah.
so the reality is you've got to take this personal ownership, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's like, yeah, but that person did that to me, did that to me, did that to me. That's great. They did that to you, but what are they going to do for you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They're not going to do anything for you. Only you can do for you at this moment. So you got to go do something. Or now that you have this realization, at a certain point, you will have no one to blame but you,
Yeah.
because you had this happen. You now know you got to work on it, and you chose not to. So
Mhm.
you don't get the right to keep telling people that person did this. That's why I'm here. No, no, no. At a certain level, you got to take ownership and go, yeah, they did that, but you know what? It's time for me to work on this. Because once you're aware of the situation, once you're aware of it, the only person's fault for your life staying where it's at is yours.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's important because, one of the stories that there's so many stories in your book, man, that I personally gravitate towards. I think I messaged you like after I was about 3/4 of the way through. It's like, dude, we have more in common than we probably realize.
I don't doubt it.
And that is this, the concept of, I remember this, I guess this phrase that you said, and I jotted it down. It says, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder how many of us have something like that, that is kind of like the threshold, or the barrier that has to be broken through to really shape our identity. So talk about Anthony Trucks, was in, the reason I'm so bad is because of foster care. And the Anthony Trucks is like over here. That's like, now I'm
Yeah.
I'm talking to thousands of people on a regular basis, on a
Mhm.
consistent basis, empowering minds. But about, like, what is the different mindset shift between the two?
Yeah, yeah, it's vastly. Well, the thing was that was actually a statement said outside of me that I overheard by a girl that was actually stating what I was probably saying inside, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And it was like this blame on the fact that foster care was the cause of all the demise, right? And
Mhm.
so that guy at that moment when he first heard it was still in that mindset of that. But then it was interesting as I got to hear this excuse out loud that didn't sound proper. It just sounded like off. Like that's not a good excuse as to why you don't do anything great in life. And I mean, way back, that was 15 years old, man. Way back then, it was like, I got to find a way to be better than this. So it was like, I'm going to do football. I'm going to do right. The progression to now has been a massive up and down journey. The difference, I think, between the two is that guy at that age felt like a leaf in the wind,
Mm.
right? It was just like I'm at the whim of the world, and no matter what I do, I'm not in control. I'm a minor still at that point,
Yeah.
and even then, I've been shipped around from house to house, and just you don't have any control, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now I have a different sense of control and power. Our company's motto, or like mission, we'll call it actually, is to get people to have an internal state, be in a limitless state of ridiculous power.
Yeah.
And it sounds odd, right? But it's like, if you think about it, like I want to have this sense of power for life. There's nothing wrong with, I'm not talking about power like, Dr. Evil power. Like I'm not trying to push buttons and have lasers on sharks' heads. But I want to have a power that says I'm in control of what's going on. If say my relationship is off, like I'm in control of helping it be better. If the business isn't doing very well, I'm in control of making it do better. If my body's not
Yeah.
right, I'm in control. And that's the thing that's powerful, because when you have that, it makes you start going, man, if I can do this, what more can I do? It's
Mhm.
a different level of expansion and possibility. And so that's where I think the difference is for me and that guy. Was like, I have a different expansion of what I have inside as a belief of what's possible based on the power that I believe I hold.
Yeah, well, and I think that builds off of little wins along the way,
Yeah.
right? So, you didn't step out of that mindset, and almost taking your life, and then going through that scenario, and then immediately stepping on stage,
No.
and then motivating, thousands of people all at one time,
Mhm.
and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important for people to understand that what their ultimate dream is still being formulated, and it's formulated as you're taking the steps in
Yeah.
creating whatever the dream is in front of you right now, right? So
Mhm.
the other thing that I loved about, what you did and how you broke it down is you took the time to actually break it down. So Identity Shift is not just a book about healthy identity, right?
Mm-mm.
It's a framework
Yeah.
to take the lowest form of self-confidence and basically build bulletproof self-confidence.
Yeah.
And one of the tools that you talk about, And again, I'm not giving away the whole book today. So
Not at all. You're
you
good.
guys
Yeah.
have to grab it and read it and digest it. I've highlighted the mess out of mine. So, um, is this concept of basically starting with the end and working backwards, like learning,
Mhm.
because we start what I guess it's like a, for lack of a better word, the word of deconstruction comes to mind. You kind of
Oh,
deconstruct
for
to
sure.
kind of reconstruct. Walk us
Yeah.
through that a little bit.
Yeah. So in order for you to figure out where you want to go, I actually have this thing called a GPS planner because a GPS concept makes way more sense to me. So we all say, I want to do this next thing. We have a very big dream, but we don't have a vision. So it's kind of like I know the city, but not the address.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
I want to make more money, but I don't know how much. I want to have a better relationship. I don't know what that looks like, you know. And so what I look at is if you want to actually think about what identity I should shift into, you first got to think about what is it that I really want? Because most people know more about what they don't want than what they do.
Yeah.
So part of it's crafting like what is it that I actually want? And then once you know that, okay, who is the person that has that? And we think through it and we create that actual vision. I have this idea of this is what I want my life to look like, what I want to experience, who I want to wake up in the morning and feel like this is me to my core at a level that feels aligned, right? And then now I can go back and go, okay, great. Where am I starting now?
Yeah.
Because GPS doesn't just take into account the destination.
See,
It
and
needs,
that was the part I liked about it because everybody's always using the like the end result.
yeah. We need to know the current location, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's what it asked me in my thing. It says current location. It's always
Yeah.
highlighted. It's like where you're at. Like, yeah, typically current location. But if you don't know the current location, you can't chart the blue line.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have no idea. It's like going out of your house, wandering around town, hoping I'm gonna get to that house. And that is the problem, I think, with a lot of people is they have an idea of the place they want to go, but they don't even know where that really is. They don't know
Yeah.
where they're starting, and they
Yeah.
can't have any idea at that point if the path they're on is the right one.
Yeah. No, it's so good. There were there's so many gems inside this book. Literally, I will be probably rereading it 2 or 3 more times. There was this phrase that you mentioned, and I don't even, it's funny because when I hang out with you or talk to you or whatever, whether it's on a podcast or Clubhouse or whatever we're doing, right?
Mhm.
Even in your work, I think you drop little gems along the way and you have no idea you dropped them.
Yeah,
Like,
usually I do.
you
I talk
know,
a lot, so I don't
yeah,
even know
well,
what's coming out.
in a good way, right? But you have this phrase, and here's what it says. It says, "If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them."
Oh, it's not mine, but it's a good one. Yeah, yeah.
I that stuck with me because most people that I've been helping, right? Most people that we both help, from my perspective, when you go to talk to them, you have to break down this defensive barrier of these
Mhm.
different excuses and different things that they've constructed in front of them that
100%.
are actually impeding their progress.
Yeah,
And you're like, no, you can be more. And they're like, I want to be more, but I don't want to be more. Like, it's kind of
it's a
like that.
battle.
Yeah. So how have you been able to unlock so many people?
Yeah, well, the thing is, that was Gay Hendricks in his book "Good to Great." He talks about if you fight for limitations, you get to keep them. And I kind of threw it in because it ties into how ego shows up for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
Ego is this thing that I call EGO, everyone's greatest obstacle,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the one barrier to my ability to give myself permission to improve. If
Yeah.
I don't permit myself to do the work to improve, I never improve. And so what a lot of people do is they'll have this ego protecting, and what it does is it protects the current identity in
Mm-hmm.
good and bad ways, right? It could protect a part of, like, it's like protecting an army, right? Let's say we're protecting this army. Well, part of the army is the army that's like, we're good moms and dads. So I
Yeah.
show up for my kids to take them to school, right? Other part is protecting the part of the army that sucks, which is like, I don't know, I eat trash food, and I'm mean to people I don't know. I hate the waiters. I'm mean to them, whatever it may be. And then that ego will always protect that whole entire army, that identity. And what you end up happening is people, whenever they have an area that needs improvement, the ego shows up and protects it. Therefore, they're fighting for that limitation, because that's a limitation we're talking about. It's
Yeah.
fighting because I don't want you to see a chink in my armor.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel less than. I don't want to feel like I must improve. And so people will do a whole lot of things to justify why that is.
Yeah.
And that's where the fighting takes place. It takes place in the justification for this situation, this moment in time, why it's their fault, why it's not my fault. And that's you fighting. And then what happens is, if you fight, you never give yourself permission to improve. Therefore, you get to keep that limitation.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this seems like the harder you fight for that limitation, the more that limitation prevails over your life. And the
Oh,
more
yeah.
you begin to release ego and start. And I tell you what's helped me, because I think for that gritty young man, that the homeless kid that, went to go build a business and stuff like that, there was a certain amount of arrogance at the time that I kind of needed. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I needed almost like a false sense of belief for a little while, right? And then you get to the point you're like, okay, I don't need that anymore. And then you realize the importance of serving other people and how serving other people actually gives you more fulfillment than fighting for the limitation that you had.
Yeah.
Right. So it seems like maturity comes when we're actually taking the time to walk through the process and basically not allow insecurities to shake our identity. Right. And one of the things you talk a lot about in the book that really there's so much that I gravitate towards is how insecurities shape identity.
Yeah.
Like break it down for the audience, because I think there's a lot of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we would say, yeah, I have days where I'm insecure. I have
Yeah.
weeks or months,
Yeah.
even years. Right.
Oh yeah.
So help us break that down and kind of work that out.
Yeah. Well, insecurity it's a feeling that doesn't have to live on.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a way I feel about something. And I would be lying if I came here and said there's not moments where I question. Like I'm going to go on a stage next week in front of 3,500 people, 15 to 200, 2,000 people online at
Mhm.
Funnel Hacking Live. I'd
Yeah.
be lying to you if part of me doesn't go, "Ooh, you be okay, dude?"
It's a little
You know?
intimidating. Yeah.
It is, and I think it's supposed to be at certain levels. There's a great deal of confidence to go up there, but at the same time, there's that little voice. It's a feeling, but it's a momentary feeling.
Mhm.
It's not a conversation I explore. Where I think some people let that emotion, it just lives on.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is I live in a way where that is fueling. And it's like people ask what identity is. It's in the book. It's who you are when you aren't thinking about who you are, right?
Mhm.
It's a flow. And if part of your not thinking about who you are is tainted or poisoned by this scarcity or this lack of anything or an insecurity, well, you'll show up in ways that'll actually be detrimental to your life. You'll be short with people. You won't let people in. You won't trust. You won't even shoot for much because your thought is, if I go and get a whole lot, more people are going to know how much I suck, or I'm going to just fall from a higher level. I'm going to fall from grace. It's going to hurt more because the higher I went up.
Yeah.
And so what happens is people live in ways that keep them in this box, and it sucks because they don't even know they're in the box.
Yeah.
And it really starts building a life. And then people go, well, how does your identity build your life? Well, what builds your life? It's actions, right? Yeah, actions build your life. Okay, great. Well, what fuels your actions? Well, it's emotions. Okay, cool. So if emotions are the things that are fueling actions that build my life, well, then what fuels the emotions? What's thoughts and beliefs? And those thoughts and beliefs are led by your identity.
Mhm.
And so your identity is coming through unconsciously in your actions.
Yeah.
So if it's going on and you're not aware of it and it's fueling the actions that are creating your life,
Yeah.
it's creating your life. And if you have that sense of scarcity or if you have a sense of insecurity, that is actually building your life and you don't know it.
Yeah. And as a result, you get more of the same. More of the same.
Always.
You know?
Over and over and over.
Yeah. I mean, and one of the biggest shifts that I made a number of years ago was understanding that I was creating each day versus I was living each day.
Mm.
And it gave me a new level of perspective to begin to not even try harder, right? Because I like to work. Like I love what I do, just like you do, right? We love what we do. But more importantly, like learning the why behind what we do. So the what we do is more fulfilling and more enjoyable, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you also have this concept that you call the life mastery loop that is more of a framework to kind of work out of what we just discussed. Would you mind talking about that for a second?
Yeah. It's so the way we process every day, it's a consistent loop always running. It's kind of what I just described. You have an identity that goes to beliefs, to thoughts, to actions, to feelings. These feelings are beliefs to thoughts, to feelings, to actions. Actions create outcomes. Outcomes tell us our environment, inside how we feel and outside what we see. And that is what fuels and anchors down our identity. And so this loop is always running. It's not like you just decide to start it. It's always already there. The problem is while it's in motion, it's rolling downhill or it's rolling flat hill. It's not rolling uphill. And it's because in our heads, we don't see ourselves as identifying as that next great whatever level. So our beliefs are less, our thoughts are less, our emotions are minimal. So the actions are half actions. The outcomes aren't that great. So the environment I live in says, look, see, not that great. And it re-ingrains the identity. So when I work with people, my goal is how do I get this like spinning uphill? How do you make it go in this flow, which is in a positive direction? And you have to get to the level of really going, where can I enter in? And that's between a person's emotions and actions, feelings and actions. And if I can step in and take an unconfident action, an action that doesn't feel right, or one that's like, ooh, scares me, which we've all done before. We've done something scary. Well, look what happened. You did something scary. Boom. All of a sudden it's like, oh, it worked.
Yeah.
And I have this outcome that's amazing. And I have this environment inside of like, well, maybe I can.
Yeah.
And then my life, maybe I made some more money and I see a better life up front. Wow. So I actually start adjusting and loosening the concrete of what I see my identity to be. And I have different beliefs, which fuel different thoughts, which create different emotions and different actions in a positive way. And now it spins uphill. So right now it's already going for everybody listening. It's now a matter of where do you step in and renegotiate the way that loop is rolling and get it going uphill by taking an confident action.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you get this question a lot. I know I do. It's like, how do I build self-confidence? How do I build self-confidence? How do I build self-confidence? It's like,
you build it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You get started.
How do you build a house? How do you build a house?
Yeah. You start with the footing and you work your way up, right? Yeah.
Yeah, dude. That's it. You build confidence. Build is the word that's there. You build. Yeah. Building is an actionable word. Like it's a verb. It's not this build it by sitting in my head thinking. It doesn't happen. You have to go and get your hands dirty.
Well, it seems like that most of us, and again, I'm speaking for myself, early on, one of the reasons that I was hesitant to build self-confidence or get building was because I was thinking that I needed to go from here to here in one swoop.
Yeah. No, you don't. It's actually not good.
No, and I think that's where we all get it wrong. That's why it seems so intimidating. The other thing is we take we take the simple and make it more complex than it needs to be. Right. Yeah. And as I've been, working with folks and then learning even from you and then kind of some of the mutual friends we have, one of the things I see commonly amongst everybody is no one is trying to get from 0 to 1,000. Everybody's going from 0 to 100, 100 to 200, 200 to 300, 300 to 400. You know what I'm saying? As far as like a
progressive. Yeah,
progressive, a constant progression. So, I've always said, the reason we named the show Stuck to Unstoppable was because stuck is nothing more than not making progress. Yeah. Unstoppable, on the other hand, is nothing more than making progress.
That's it. You just keep going. It's I live by the concept of fall in love with the day, not the destination. Yeah. Best I can. Is it perfect? No. I have things I want to do and places I want to go and things I want to see, but I actually put counted effort towards enjoying my day. Yeah. There are things I don't like doing and I get them out of my life. Sometimes it takes longer than I'd like, there's certain like people I don't want to talk to or different parts of my schedule. I try to slowly maneuver away, but I realize like I'm trying to fall in love with my enjoyable day because then I show up better for myself, for my family and my work. It's just is what it is. And that's because I know the things I'm choosing to do are taking me in the direction of the dream. And then if I just love doing those things and I'll just do those things and all of a sudden, boom, like the dream arrives. I get to be on a stage. I get to have a book. I get to be on Good Morning America, right? These things. Yeah. I wasn't shooting for those, but I was shooting to do the actions. And if I hated the actions, I would have eventually stopped them. If I hate doing the small things, I don't get the big things. So if you love the small things, right, the big things come.
Absolutely. One of these things that I guess I want to maybe pick your brain on. This is more of a more me picking your brain on something that's on my mind.
Yeah. Good.
How does one person shape a healthy identity when those that they love most may not see what they see for themselves?
Yeah. So when you don't have the people that you want to be, so we have a accepted realm of people, right? We have like a group, a tribe, we'll call it. And whenever we start doing things outside of what the tribe is, we have to determine, do we want the tribe to feel at peace or us? Yeah. Because if you want to do something and you don't go do it, then the tribe is happy, but then you're not. Yeah. And here's a crazy thing. The tribe is a collective of people, right? So you are actually part of the tribe. So even if the tribe is happy, the tribe's not happy. Yeah. Because part of the tribe isn't happy. If that makes sense. Yeah. We'll call it meta. So what I talk about, and then when I tell people like, how do we do that? I say, look, man, it's going to feel weird. Robin Sharma says, change is always hard in the beginning, messy in the middle, beautiful at the end. Yeah. That journey is going to end up being something where people typically, They will go the route of trying something new, and someone in the tribe goes, "Oh, it's stupid, stop doing it." And they go, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna stop doing it." Right.
Yeah.
And I go, "No, no, no. That's the moment where you keep going." What do
Yeah.
you mean? You keep going. Here's why. They're going to see the first time, go, "You're crazy, stop doing it." Second time, go, "Why are you still doing that?" Third time, go, "You're still doing it."
Yeah.
Fourth time, go, "Why are they still doing it?" Fifth
Yeah.
time, go, "They're really still doing that." The sixth, seventh time, like, wow, that's who they are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the journey to it. And then what they do is if they love you, which the right people will love you, they may look at it like it's weird, but they'll go, "I see you happy,
Yeah.
support you, see what it is," right? But that's a journey. Like, it took me a long time for even my wife to understand thoroughly and accept thoroughly what I do. It's an
Yeah.
interesting journey. I love it, but I stayed the course and I stayed the path, and it panned out, in an amazing way. But the reality is, not everybody's going to support it, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Your job is to be the one that's the first leader of the movement. And then when you lead it and they see the emotion behind it, now they'll get on board. And that's what's going to happen when people in your own tribe don't believe you at first.
Yeah, I mean and I've lived that numerous times in my life. I remember my father when I went to go first start my first business. Of course, he had he had a business failure that he decided not to try again, which that's a choice we can all make.
Yeah.
But that fear, he pointed in my direction, and said, "You don't want to do this. You don't
Yeah.
want to start this business. You don't want the entrepreneurial life. You don't want this."
Yeah.
And for me, I knew that I needed this, but I wasn't sure what it would look like. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I wanted my dad to be happy. Like, I wanted to be happy with me. I want my wife to be happy with me, my kids to be happy with me. I want to be present and be attentive. But it was this interesting situation that, like you were just talking about, I went for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, not really making true financial sense for almost 5 years before all of a sudden, that you're basically an overnight success after, 5 or 6 years. Right.
That works.
And
Yeah.
I'll never forget this. My dad comes back to me and he says, "I just want to tell you, I'm proud of you. And,
Mhm.
I always knew you could do it." I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get that. Right.
Yeah.
Crazy part and this is why I think your book is so important for a lot of people, because if they can get their identity underway, they can develop the courage and the confidence to pursue what we just talked about, to take those stairs and take those levels.
Yeah.
Whether we realize it or not, we're giving those that we love most the courage to follow in the footsteps and do the same.
Always.
And if we don't take that step, they don't follow either. Did you
No.
have that kind of situation as well, as you were kind of like shaping this brand and all this kind of stuff?
No, man, I was solo, dude. Well, yeah. I mean, my family, I'm always been the oddball. I was the only, athlete in the family. I was the only one, everybody's pipe fitters and they do welding stuff. And so we have these meetings as a family where we hang out and they're like talking about stuff that's Spanish to me. And I don't speak Spanish. So I wasn't a weirdo there. And then, in the world of what I do, I definitely, at one point, my wife and best friend were like, "Bro, chalk this stuff up. It doesn't work, and go get a job." And I would tell them back then, I say, the Anthony that would have a job would not be the Anthony that you'd want to be around.
Yeah.
It's not for me. It's not, and I'm not saying it in a way of like it's below me in any way. I
Mm-hmm.
just know I'd be a really bad employee. I wouldn't. I'm not built to live your vision out. I'm built to
Yeah.
serve people. To tuck this behind a desk at a 9 to 5 would be. I feel like it'd be wasting God's gifts to me.
Yeah.
And like I had that, and I had this interesting belief in me that other people didn't have, and it
Mhm.
wasn't in what I was going to accomplish. It was who I was going to be.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. It wasn't like I never told him I'm going to do this and I'm going to make this. Never. I was just like, no, I'm going to become a guy who has some kind of impact in a positive way in the world
Yeah.
based on where I came from, because no one that looks like me does what I do. Right.
Yeah.
And so that was always a thing. And yes, it is met with a lot of weird looks because it's not normal.
Yeah.
It is just not. That there's a small minority of individuals like us who do what we do.
We're crazy enough to put ourselves out there like that.
Yeah, and that's okay. The world needs us as much as it needs everybody else. I need everybody else to do what they do so I can do what I do. It's a collective, everybody needs. And so yeah, there's gonna be, if you have that itch that's like there's something more, you got to realize that itch is one that only you can scratch. But here's the thing is, no one's gonna notice the itch or being scratched until it's been scratched.
Yeah, that's true.
They're just gonna think you're crazy.
Yeah. And Lord knows I'm still seeing that from time to time on my journey. The reality is if you desperately feel like you're ultimately called to serve at scale, identity is the first step,
Yeah.
right? Before blueprints, before frameworks, before planning out your social media and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff to build your audience. It all starts with you, because had you not done that work, we wouldn't even be talking right now.
No, he wouldn't, because all the things that I knew to do, I wasn't doing until I became the guy to do it. It's like they're all tools. It's all information. It's all stuff you can utilize. But if you aren't the person to utilize it yet, it won't get utilized. It's like giving a hammer to a baby and saying build a house.
Yeah.
Or giving a hammer to a construction worker saying build a house.
Yeah.
Right person, same tool.
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, dude, everybody's got to check out Identity Shift. Everybody's got to grab it. I'm very fortunate. I have a few hundred copies for our attendees at Transform Your Live, which I'm excited about. Can't wait for you to sign those and all that good stuff. But where can everybody else get the book for right now and learn more about you?
Yeah, if you go to identityshiftbook.com, identityshiftbook.com. I say it because people get messed up. And then if you go through the process of getting the book and come back to step 3 on that same page, use the code LIVE. You'll be able to get a free audiobook, a free digital book, and a $97 workbook for free.
Love it, man. Love it, dude. Man, I sincerely always enjoy hanging out with you, man. You always think and reflect dude, awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
So very welcome. We'll see you soon too in October, I believe. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, man. Take it easy. See ya.
Dude, thank you.
If you love that interview, go ahead and check out this next one right here.
Because of the experience of feeling super stuck at certain points in my life and living inside of funks in certain point in my life, identify now looking backwards that those periods of being down were connected to times when I was not growing.